If there is something or someone you're obsessing over, you need to hear this. This man is Neville Goddard, and he was a cosmic philosopher who told a story that made me believe and start applying the law of assumption in my life, and I saw immediate results. So I'm going to paraphrase that story. The year is 1933. There's a depression. Millions of people are out of work. In the summer months, people were allowed to sleep in the parks. There were thousands of people all over the place, and there were long lines for free coffee and bread. At this time, Neville Goddard was a dancer on Broadway, but because people couldn't pay for the ticket, there were only 5 or 6 shows this year as opposed to the normal 50 or 60 a year. He wasn't working much. He was living in a basement, struggling to pay his bills, much like everyone else. He's spending a lot of time hanging out with his neighbor, Abdullah. One night in October of that year, he mentions to Abdullah that he would like to go back to Barbados. In fact, he's been obsessing over it. He can't stop thinking about it. He was there in 1922. He hadn't been back since. And Abdullah looked at him and said, "You are in Barbados." And he said, "I'm in Barbados?" And Abdullah said, "Yes, you're in Barbados." He said, "You're noticing the depression from Barbados. You're seeing all the little homes in Barbados. You're smelling the tropical air of Barbados. And you sleep tonight knowing that you're in Barbados. It's not a matter of opinion, it's a fact." So Neville Goddard's like, "You're crazy, man. Clearly I'm in New York. I see these tall buildings. I hear the sirens. I'm not in Barbados." But he goes home and he sleeps that night in the basement, just assuming he's in Barbados. America is 2,000 miles away. A week later, nothing happens, so he goes back to Abdullah's house and he says, "Hey man, I am still thinking about Barbados." And Abdullah slams the door in his face. He brings this up to Abdullah 3 more times, and each time Abdullah slams the door in his face. Finally, he says, "How can I talk to you about going to Barbados if you're already in Barbados? You're not being faithful to your assumption." So on December 4th of this year, about 2 months after he first mentioned it to Abdullah, there's a letter under his door. The letter is from his oldest brother, Cecile, and he says, "We've never spent Christmas together. I'm enclosing $50 for a shirt, a pair of shoes, and a ticket. I know you don't have a job, so you have no excuse for it to not be here, so I'll see you in Barbados." So Neville rushes to get the ticket, and they say, "We can get you a ticket, but we only have 3rd class available." He's still excited. He rushes to Abdullah's house, and he's like, "I'm going to Barbados, 3rd class." And Abdullah is like wholly unimpressed. He's like, "No, you went to Barbados 1st class." So on December 6th, Neville goes to board and he goes up to the ticket agent and they say, "Oh, well, we have a cancellation and you're actually going 1st class." So he went there 10 days back in 1st class. And in Abdullah's rudeness, he taught him that in order to do something, you need to already have assumed that you're doing it. And so when people come up and they say, "I'd love to be happily married," he said, "You are happily married. Go to sleep with a ring on your finger." People looked at him like he was crazy, but he said, "This is exactly what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be doing everything that you need to do from that state. This is how the law of assumption works. Follow for more."